On Saturday, July 25th, 12 o'clock noon, our march will begin at the Lincoln Monument. That's across the street from Essex County College in Newark, New Jersey.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle, and welcome to folks in Newport, Vermont, up near the Canadian border, who are seeing our show on the newest cable channel. The Struggle is on over 30 channels from Vermont to New York City, and at YouTube, our channel there is Struggle Video Media. The Black Lives Matter Next Big Action will take place in Newark, New Jersey on July 25th. Here's a spot that we at TSVN did for the event. The voiceover is that of Lawrence Hamm of Newark's People's Organization for Progress.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives...
On Saturday, July 25th at 12 o'clock noon, we will have a Million People's March against police brutality, racial injustice, and economic inequality. The murder of unarmed people by the police must stop. The use of excessive force by the police must stop. The violation of people's constitutional rights must stop. And we must bring an end to racial violence in this country, the type that brought about the murder of 9 people at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. So I ask all people of conscience throughout this country to join us in Newark, New Jersey on Saturday, July 25th, 12 o'clock noon. Our march will begin at the Lincoln Monument. That's across the street from Essex County College in Newark, New Jersey.
A few days ago, there was an outreach meeting for the event in New York City.
The march is going to begin at the Lincoln Monument, which is located at the intersection of West Market Street and Springfield Avenue in Newark. That's the heart of downtown Newark. That's right across the street from Essex County College. So if people need, like, to put it in their GPS, they need an address, you can put 303 University Avenue.
This is an important mobilization, sisters and brothers. As several speakers have said, you know, we don't need to preach to the choir. We probably need to talk about practical things like, what are you going to do? That said, though, I'll give you one of a million reasons why this is important, especially for some of us veterans of the struggle. What I mean by that is those of us who didn't just get in the movement a year ago or even a few years ago, but have basically dedicated our life to struggling for freedom and liberation. This Black Lives Matter uprising, while, you know, one should not generalize too much, there's a wing of it, particularly amongst the young, that is distrustful of the old civil rights guard.
Wow.
And they're right.
I wonder what.
They have a reason. To them, it seems like our people are being murdered and they're not doing anything because maybe they're a little too close to the establishment, a little too comfortable, and maybe they're a little too invested in not shutting down injustice but shutting us down.
Say something, brother, say something.
And so there's somewhat of a rebellion going on within this phenomena that many of us call the Black Lives Matter uprising. For that reason, it's important that they come to Newark and support the People's Organization for Progress, because in 2.5 weeks, we're going to shut down what?
Newark.
Shut down what?
Newark.
Shut down what?
Newark.
My name is Niall Fort. I'm also a member of the Maroon Project with Marilyn Zuniga. I'm based in Newark, New Jersey. I'm not going to speak long, but I'll speak just for a minute or so from the perspective of faith and justice. I'm a preacher. I've been a preacher since I was 16 years old. Wow. Ministry is one of the ways in which I do social justice work. And so just really coming behind Marilyn, who's encouraging everybody to bring out an educator. If you're a part of a faith community, no matter what that faith community may look like, no matter what religion or denomination you may be a part of, I really encourage you to not only invite people from your faith community to this march specifically on the 25th, but I heard someone here, I believe you, my sister, who talked about creating a theological language around some of the hell that we're catching. And I think it's so important. I know for a long time, I'll just give my own personal testimony. I didn't grow up in a progressive church. I didn't grow up in a faith community where I felt like I could be mad about what I saw in my hood, in my neighborhood, or what I saw was going on to the kids in my, where I'm from. And in going to seminary, I went to Princeton Theological Seminary and got a master's of divinity. It took me having to go to seminary to really develop a language and develop an understanding around how one can engage deeply in social justice work in a place of faith. And it was actually Mumia Abu-Jamal who helped me do that. Mumia wrote a book called Faith of Our Fathers that I was able to read. It's a text that a lot of people don't talk about, that he wrote about, and he's deeply spiritual. A lot of people don't really talk about the spirituality of Mumia Abu-Jamal. And so I just encourage everybody to really engage, if you are a person of faith, to not feel like you got to do social justice work outside of that community, but challenge your community, if they're not already doing social justice work, to do that work. Be the person to start that prison ministry, be the person to start that anti-police brutality ministry, and hold your pastor, your imam, your rabbi accountable, not just to God, but to the community in which we are called to love and serve. So I'm excited to see y'all there. Thank you for having us, and God bless.
Pam Africa, a survivor of the massacre of Move in Philadelphia in 1985, talked about Mumia Abu-Jamal, who many activists say was unfairly convicted of killing a policeman in Philadelphia, and is now quite sick, and some say is deliberately getting inadequate care.
That Mumia is in more trouble now than he has ever been. Wow. And to skip past a lot of things, they are actually torturing Mumia. Suzanne, Johanna Fernandez, people from the MOVE organization went to visit Mumia on, what day did we go? Sunday. And we've been keeping a constant, people coming up constantly to visit him. And I'm going back up, today is what, Tuesday? I'm going back up Thursday. And to see him, Mumia looked more like somebody has been radiated than anything. His skin is jet black, and his feet are blacker than black, and the palms of his hands is black. He is swollen up, and 3 times his size and went down, and now he's small here, and his thighs are still big, but not as big as they was. He described his legs as chicken legs with big foots, and he's funny, doing this whole thing, keeping us, together. And we've been battling. Let Suzanne tell a lot of this story. But we really, really need people to understand why this. In fact, I don't have to tell everybody in here. We need to understand why they want to kill him. We all know why. And but just like when they signed Mumia's death warrant in 1995 and signed the first one, the second one, and then we had the victory party bringing him out at the Constitutional Center. That's the kind of spirit we need right now for Mumia, because
it's amazing how things can change. Because as much as we've been talking about police harassing young black men and young Latino men, it wasn't until somebody invented one of these that it made it all real.
Right.
And now it's in everybody's home. I was watching just last night a young man who obviously was walking down the street. This big, strong cop, I don't know if you saw that on Facebook, big, muscle-bound cop, stops him and asks him for his ID and just takes his ID. And he kept saying, I didn't do nothing wrong. What are you doing? And the cop got into a fight with him. It was all on film. You saw that? I mean, and these things have continued unabated, even though they're being filmed, because it seems that that's just what the police do. That's how they operate.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Juanita Young. My son Malcolm Ferguson was murdered March 1st of 2000. Since the murder of my son Malcolm, I've been out here for the past 15 years, supporting families fighting for justice. To see people now take a stronger stand on this police brutality issue, it took a long time for people to finally wake up and see police brutality is really a problem. Because all these faces that's on this flyer is why we need to be out there on July 25th.
But do y'all remember when the people ran up into the offices of Charlie Hebdo and shot them people? They killed, was it 12 people? About 12 people. Do you know that millions of people marched in France? About, what was it, a week later? Not, maybe 2 weeks.
Just sweet Charlie.
Millions of people. Now, a committed white racist supremacist went into a church where black people were having Bible study. Went into the church where he was welcomed by the people. And they invited him into their Bible study, and he sat there for an hour. And then he pulled out his gun, and he shot almost everybody in there, but he left one person alive, and he said, I'm not going to kill you because I want you to go and tell what happened here. See, that's not a hate crime, that's an act of terror. That was designed to terrorize the community down there in Charleston. It was designed to terrorize people. But what I'm saying is, in the aftermath of the mass murder of the people in France, millions marched. Man, it's like people done almost already forgot them 9 black people done been killed down there in the Emmanuel Baptist Church. I mean, am I wrong? It's off the front page. It's not in the national discussion. They done went to the Confederate flag. Nobody talking about getting just... This is the 16th Street Baptist Church all over again. It's the 16th Street Baptist Church. And we need to make this march on the 25th not just about the unarmed black people, but it should also be about this racist violence that's going on in America and the rise of these white supremacist groups.
In Hartford, Connecticut, there was a Black Lives Matter protest after the apparent beating of a handcuffed man was caught on video.
Black Lives Matter! 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 There's no excuse for systems of abuse! 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 We don't get no justice! We don't get no peace! HBD!
you seen the video? Yes. Young man was brutally beaten. HPD! Shame! HPD! Shame! HPD! Shame! HPD! Shame! And I said to the reporter that called me from the Current, he said, Bishop Seldes, my name, by the way, is Bishop John Seldes. I'm the pastor of Homicide United Church of Christ here in the city of Hartford, and I am also one of the leaders of Moral Monday CT. Can I give one big whoop for Moral Monday CT right here? And I happen to be one of the Hartford 17. A few weeks ago, we shut this town down. Our message was simple then, and it is simple now. It is completely unacceptable for police officers to beat a citizen of this city. I'll say it again, and y'all didn't hear me. It is completely unacceptable for a police officer to ever beat a citizen of this city. In fact, it's unacceptable in New Haven, it's unacceptable in Bridgeport, it's unacceptable in New London, Waterbury is unacceptable. Nobody should be beaten like that in this country. That's right.
The biggest news about Israel and BDS concerned one of their many weapons companies. Protesters on July 6 shut down 4 factories owned by Israel's biggest arms company, Elbit Systems, to mark the one-year anniversary of the 2014 attack on Gaza. An injunction was issued in an attempt to prevent one of the 3 UK protests at UAV Engines Limited, a drone engine factory near Shenstone, Staffordshire. Despite this, campaigners from London Palestine Action, Campaign Against the Arms Trade, and the Scottish Palestine Solidarity Campaign locked on in the early hours of June 6th and blocked the road and entrance to the factory. A similar occupation took place in Melbourne, Australia. The 4 plants were shut down for 8 hours in amazing action. There were arrests. We got all the photos from the Twitter feed of Block the Factory. We urge you to follow. In Connecticut, there was a much more modest effort. A number of us held banners on a street corner in Middletown on July 9th, the 10th anniversary of the Palestinian call for boycotts, divestments, and sanctions. The state of Connecticut has a whopping $32 million of State of Israel bonds and Israeli stocks. State, city, and teacher pensions make money from the misery and death of Palestinians. We encourage viewers to write about this to Connecticut's Treasurer, Denise Napier. Now to the fight against the attempt to crush Greece with austerity, and to what was supposed to be a solidarity rally in Astoria, New York.
Λοιπόν, ακούστε να σας πω κάτι. Όχι εγώ, όχι Ομοσπονδία.
This is Arthur Kelly. He's a Greek American Union leader.
He's a Greek American Union leader.
From Communication Workers of America.
From Communication Workers of America.
He's here in solidarity with the Greek people.
He's here in solidarity with the Greek people.
He would like to say a few things. It's a privilege to be here.
It's a privilege to be here.
To talk about the issues that not only affect the Greek people, but affect the entire world.
Talk about issues that not only affect the Greek people, but affect the entire world.
Our destiny.
Our destiny.
The message is to show our support as Greek Americans, Greeks who live abroad for many years. We want to show our support to the Greek people who have the democratic right to go for a memorandum. Unfortunately, the lack of democracy in certain circles of the European Union, they deny that and create an environment of fear. The message is to beat that fear, to go ahead and go to the memorandum, because this is a democratic country, a democratic elected government, and they have the right to say no to the austerity policies. And I'm very pleased and glad seeing that the American public, along with American politicians, journalists and economists who also support the Greek cause. They see how unfair the policies of austerity are in Europe, and in particular in Greece, when we see all the contradictions of modern capitalism in this small country. We keep the support, and I think a strong no will give the Greek government a very good point to continue the difficult negotiations within Europe, within the Eurozone.
Giannis, explain what happened here today.
We called a rally to support the no for the referendum that's coming up on Sunday in Greece. And the officials of the Greek American community, who are right-wing and anti-left, came and took over, with the sound system, and try to block us, and try to, make the no into a yes, support for the yes of the referendum, with some outrageous practices, as you saw, where they try to shut people up from speaking at the mic, and basically it was what we usually get from the Omospondia, the Greek officials of the Greek American community, which is always a very anti-left position, and very typical of their tactics.
They did have a Syriza speaker.
They did, yes, but then followed by 3 or 4 of the nationalist conservative with some far-right underpinning, obviously language. One of the Golden Dawn members is on stage. He's the MC behind the computer. So you get an idea of what we're talking about there.
What is Golden Dawn for the people who don't know?
The fascist, the neo-Nazi party in Greece. They have a small group of followers here, maybe about a dozen.
If you could speak to the people in Greece on a big TV station, what would you say to them?
Vote no, and the struggle continues. Because this is only one step towards breaking with the euro. And this is the number one, is to tell the Europe that, these negotiations, we want them to stop, and the people should, come forward again in the movements and demand that the debt be written off, and that the banks nationalized, and put the economy under workers' control, because these negotiations, they end up in a very bad place for the left and for working people, and a huge compromise. We want to avoid that. So vote no and continue with the struggle.
Break the tyrannical rule of the Troika. Voting Archie leaves the Greek people in control of their own destiny. Voting Archie, Greek heroes fighting the tyranny of the 1%, earning the distinction of their forefathers in 1940, when they resisted tyranny. In 1940, Churchill said of these heroes, hence, we will not say Greeks fight like heroes, but that heroes fight like Greeks!
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now we can all go home and see how effective we can be, and in what way, if we're going to influence matters.
How do you feel about what happened tonight?
I feel very disappointed and Angry on one hand, because we didn't expect our organized community to behave so undemocratically. But on the other hand, I'm very happy because of all the support of all these people who were here. That they were supported no to fear, no to austerity, and no to the blackmail of Greece. Unfortunately, our organized community didn't want to take any sides, which is basically taking side of being neutral at this crucial moment is like taking side against the effort of the country to stop austerity and stop the agreement that the European Union wants to impose on the people of Greece.
Here's something that was perhaps a sign of things to come. The Greek foreign minister this week went to Israel and shook hands with Prime Minister Netanyahu. While he met with the butcher of Palestine, Palestinian kids on a beach held up signs in solidarity with the people of Greece. The video from Astoria was right at the start of July. Last Sunday, July 5th, acting on the advice of the Greek government, voters overwhelmingly rejected austerity. But today, as we record July 10th, the Greek Syriza coalition government seems to be accepting the deal of the European bankers. Antarcia, which is a left force outside the government, staged protests. Much more to come in future weeks. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller, and this is The Struggle.